Hey YouTube, this is John, webmaster at untrained.org, and this is Pug. Say hello, Pug. And Pug has been keeping me busy. I've been house sitting for my landlord and landlady, and trying to do the brochure at the same time, but that has proven impossible for me. However, would like to read an excerpt from my upcoming brochure, the name of which will be What Every Catholic Should Know About Regnum Christi and the Legion of Christ. This section will be titled, Who Was the Reverend Maciel? I'll get right into it. The late great Mexican Latin Rite Catholic priest Maciel, known to his following simply as Nuestro Padre, or Our Father, became in his lifetime the most famous Christian presbyter in the world. But unfortunately for Vatican PR, the name Maciel has also become synonymous with pedophilia, often called soul murder, meaning that it is the exact opposite of what we think the priest's job is, or revelations of the early 21st century, and we'll see why he became synonymous with it further down. Maciel was the founding member of the Legion of Christ, 1941, and his lay front Regnum Christi, 1959, its name being Latin for the Kingdom of Christ. Embodying perhaps the worst possible misinterpretation of the church militant concept, well, with the exception of the Crusaders laying siege on Constantinople in AD 1204, the Legion of Christ's leaders openly aspire to supplant the Society of Jesus, or Jesuit order, in tandem with Regnum Christi, who in turn openly aspire to supplant Opus Dei. In both ambitions, the LCRC mega family have thus far failed. And then, toward his death, Maciel was found to have fathered at least 6 children by 2 female lovers, a rarity for him, all of whose lifestyles he provided for by misappropriating funds earmarked for legionary formation and apostolate, all grossly underfunded and proudly neurotic, or humble. Maciel, an outspoken misogynist, told his baby mamas, one a Mexican and the other a Spaniard, that he was not a priest but an agent of the CIA, which is relevant because, like the United States' intelligence community, Maciel followed a consistent modus operandi of automatically calumniating his political opponents as de facto communists. In the course of the apostolic visitation, which then Pope Benedict XVI ordered in 2009, just after Maciel's final and drama-ridden departure, it came to light that the Uber priest had sexually molested at least 2 of his own children, who again believed he was a spy and therefore not a man whom one could just report to the authorities, besides the countless young men entrusted to his tutelage in his Legion of Christ, whose original name was Missionaries of the Sacred Heart and Our Lady of Sorrows. Some of Maciel's very young victims went on to become top superiors in the Legion of Christ and Regnum Christi, and as usually happens, the cycle continues. The present leaders were men who were handpicked by Maciel himself. Founding the Legion at 21 years young, Maciel was denounced throughout his career by several bishops, among them many of his own kinsmen, whose seminaries expelled him for undisclosed reasons all over Mexico and New Mexico. Like a steam engine of pharisaical perversion and corruption, however, Maciel was able to leverage his contacts, charm, strategic mind, and fundamental dishonest character to endear himself to top-level Catholic clerics and other knee-jerk Latin American aristocracy types, until he got all charges mysteriously dropped and Legio Christi approved as a congregation of pontifical right under his leadership in 1959, a status that has not been revoked despite severe and chronic scandal throughout its 75-year history, mostly directly implicating the founder and general director, Maciel. For instance, in 1957 and again in 2006, Maciel was deposed by an apostolic visitation. Maciel's main ticket to success, aside from the aforementioned personality traits, would have to be his consistent implementation of classic mind control techniques within the Legion and secretiveness from outsiders, the same tools employed by the fascist dictators we fought a world war against. On a side note here, as I've mentioned in other videos, they use the word charity basically to mean not charity as we understand it, but supporting the institution and covering up the lies. Okay, next paragraph. Perhaps the most poignant irony in this man's effect on the modern Catholic Church is that while he told his highly suggestible followers that the bishops who opposed him were secretly Masons, one of the strongest theories going today is that Maciel was himself a Mason, which would only mean that his quite effective undermining of church authority, to say nothing of every other religious congregation, was the product of his deep-seated, possibly envy-based, anti-Catholic zealotry, rather than a pure manifestation of Maciel's trademark megalomania, prodigious though it is. After all, it is no secret that the Legion employs Mormon outreach tactics, or that Mormonism in turn represents a popularization of Masonry. As then Pope Benedict XVI ably encapsulated, Maciel would appear to have lived a life, quote, devoid of scruples and authentic religious sentiment, end quote. Much ink has been spilled on the subject of the Legion's prosaic motives, which they veiled, thinly I'll grant, behind their pious platitudes and convoluted spirituality. And seminal works include the unfortunately titled, or unfortunately mistranslated, Our Father Who Art in Bed, and Vows of Silence. Obviously, the folded sheet of letter-sized paper you now hold in your hands is no match for something that's in deep as the Legion's leaders appear to be. Suffice it to say that the Legion's wiles and pomps are unexaggeratable, resilient, and deftly veiled from the general public. In layman's terms, the Legion of Christ and Regnum Christi can BS with the best of them. Equally impossible to overstate has been the gross negligence and probable corruption by acquiescent Legion-friendly bishops, most recently Bishop Salvatore Matano, newly installed in Rochester, New York. And that's the excerpt. Thank you very much for listening. Please sign the petition I'm linking below. Thank you so much. Send it along to anyone you know in Rochester, New York. Please forward the link to anyone you know living in Rochester, New York and greater the Western New York area. Thank you so much.